When I was 12 years old, I just didn't want to be poor.
You started as a trader, like me.
And then I made more money working at night in 3 months than my annual salary. My payroll 1 year got to $1 million.
Let's go all the way back to where it all started.
We had nobody. We landed and we lived in a friend that my mom knew. We lived in their basement for 18 months.
Wow.
We used to do 100 million in Canada. When I went to the US, I was undescribably tiny. There are only 3 times to sell a business. Number 1.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Potty fam?
Yes, it's my potty fam. Not potty, not potty.
I have a 6-year-old, so
Yeah.
my mind goes to potty.
You could be my potty fam. Should do the podcast on the toilet. No. Okay, focus. What's our favorite F word? Focus. So I have the amazing Robert Herjavec today. Woo!
Hi, Jane.
He's just come straight, pretty much from his Emmys win. So here I am going to like the Logies, being like, oh my God, I'm at the Logies. And Robert's like winning Emmys.
Yes. And when we did the show in Canada, Jane, we won something called a Gemini, which is like a Logie in Canada. And we were so proud and we were so excited. And then we got nominated for an Emmy. We're like, forget the Gemini. Did you get a Logie?
No, we weren't even nominated.
Did you get to touch a Logie?
No. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, MasterChef. You know MasterChef?
Oh, it's a great
They
show.
won something.
Do you think we'll get nominated this year?
I don't know. Let's see.
Let's put it out there.
Let's look a lot.
Let's put it out there.
Logies.
Logies.
Come on.
Why is it called a Logie?
Oh, God. I don't know. Pop quiz.
Well, Jane, it was named after a...
John Logie. Okay, well, I just took a chance.
Yeah, no, it was named after a guy named Logie, who was like a reporter or something, a legend in the broadcast industry in Australia. Hang on, which one of us is Australian?
Yeah, I know. It was just 10, the table's a 10.
I looked that up because I was like, why would you call it a Logie?
Oh, that's good.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's thirst for knowledge.
Yes.
Yes.
So we won an Emmy.
That's great.
Do you know they're really heavy?
How heavy? Is it all gold? No.
Yeah.
Gold coated?
Yes.
Oh.
They're really heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the experience like? Do you think you're like, have you elevated a level in status? Are you now Emmy award-winning Robert Herjavec?
Yes. From now on, everything in my bio is Emmy award-winning. No, it was really cool. We presented at the Emmys this year. So we gave out an award and we went up there. And we've been nominated before. We, the hosts, have never won.
Right.
So we had no expectation. But it was cool to present. There was like 5,000 people there. And like RuPaul with... Adam Levine was in the front row.
Oh, that's cool.
And the Queer Eye guys were in the front row. And we were like, we're screwed. We're never getting an Emmy because we think they put people close to stage.
Yeah.
We were like way in the back. So we got to present and then we're all standing there and sitting down and we didn't even know they were calling our category. Oh. And we lost our minds. We were so excited.
Oh my God.
Yes.
And I heard that like the first year you win, you guys got really excited and you didn't win. And then you didn't win the second time. And then the show actually won.
But we didn't get an Emmy.
But no one bothered going.
No one bothered going. So now we've won.
Yes.
I'm an Emmy Award winner.
Oh.
Yes.
And I'm a Logies attendee. That's great. So we're just all on.
I could have been a Logies attendee.
Yeah.
I will be next year. We'll get nominated. Let's put it out there.
Logies. So, Robert, okay, let's go all the way back to where it all started. I hear you're an immigrant, so am I.
How old were you when you came here?
I was 8.
So was I.
Oh my God.
You were 8 when you came.
Yes, but
Did
not on a boat. We're on a plane.
And what made your parents come here?
I think it was just for the opportunities. I know that because I know that you guys were escaping communism.
We came here when I was 8, just like you. Your story is incredible, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I know your story. And it's from where you started to your path to become an accountant, to go into a creative field like yours is remarkable. But it's really because somebody loved you enough to give you that opportunity when you came here. Right? And so my mom and dad did the same thing. They left a communist country. My dad used to say he escaped communism. We were in a little village. He literally just pushed the door open in the jail. And we crossed the border to Italy and we came on a boat.
Wow.
And the boat was called the Cristoforo Colombo. And I have this amazing picture when I got on Dragon's Den in Canada. The lady who was in charge of the museum where all immigrants land in Canada by boat, it's called Pier 21. She was a big fan of the show, and she found a picture of the actual boat docking with my mom and dad on it and me landing in Halifax. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
And isn't it just amazing
It's amazing.
That within a generation, what's happened?
I used to say only in Canada, but I think it can also happen in America. It can happen in Australia. It's the power of democracy.
Well, this is all my parents were trying to do. It took them 5 years to, even though, we flew on the plane, a boat much for them in one hell of a journey, but it took her 5 years just to keep applying, getting rejected. So she was just going through America, Canada, New Zealand,
Anywhere.
rejection, and just those, and just we managed to get here.
Did you have a lot of family here?
We have two. We have two family members, which I think did help.
We had nobody.
Wow.
We landed, and my mom, I think we had like $50 or $20, and my mom was like, we didn't speak a word of English.
Wow.
And my mom was like, okay, what do we do now? So we took a train from Halifax to Toronto. I have no idea how far that is. It's far. And we lived in a friend that my mom knew that also left. We lived in their basement for 18 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems really incredible when you look back. So people always say, oh my gosh, it must have been so hard. You left. But as an 8-year-old, I'd never been outside the country. I'd never been on a boat. I'd never seen Canada. It was all so exciting. It was really not bad until the first day I went to school.
When you realized you were different?
When I realized we were poor.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, poor when you're small is relative to who you are. So I grew up in a village with dirt floors. We had an outdoor toilet. I just took Hudson and Haven to a farm, and there was an outhouse.
Yeah.
And I said to them, this is where Daddy went to the toilet. And the babies were like, what if you have to go in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
I said, well, you went outside, like you walked to the outhouse. So you don't know any of that because everybody lives that way until I went to school. And then the other kids make fun of you because you're different, you're poor, you don't speak the language. That's when it got really hard. And then I realized, holy crap, we're in a different country. We're immigrants.
And what about the immigrant mindset do you think has helped you?
It's helped me and it's hurt me. I used to think it always helped me, but here's the problem. I don't know if you experienced this. As an immigrant, you always feel you have a chip on your shoulder.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yes.
I do.
And you feel like you have to prove yourself.
Yes.
And you feel like I'm always going to work harder, the whole 9 yards. Do you guys use that expression here, the whole 9 yards?
I think I know it because it was like that Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, football. So I think that helps you. But recently, I think it also hurts you. So one thing I've learned from Mark Cuban, he is unbelievably confident. So when Mark walks into a room, he believes it's always going to work out. So I just had this conversation with him and I said, Mark, if you start a new business or something, what do you do if it doesn't work out? He was like, it's going to work out. And I said, well, what if it doesn't? Like, how do you protect your downside? He goes, I don't. It's going to work out. And I think as an immigrant, you're so afraid of going back to where you came from that in my mind, I'm always protecting my downside. I used to say, I may not be the richest guy in the room, but I will never be poor again. And I was really proud of that. But when you think about that, how limiting is that? How limiting is it to think that everything you're doing is to avoid going backwards? So I think it's helped me, but I think I've had to change my mindset.
Yeah, to have less risk aversion, because I think it's like that, that same way, like you would work so much harder to hold, if someone took $50 away from you, you work so much harder to hold on to it than the chance of then to go and get the $50. And I feel like that is, as an immigrant, especially, you're just so aware of what would happen if you lost it all, because you just don't have the safety net.
Because you're so scared.
Yeah.
Mark and I had this conversation just not long ago. And I asked him, when you were 12 years old, did you know you were going to be rich? And Mark was like, and yes, I knew I was going to be rich. Absolutely. And I thought, when I was 12 years old, I just didn't want to be poor.
Yeah, me too.
So like rich and private jets and like I just never thought that way. He did. And it's probably why he's worth more money than I am.
So for me, the moment that things changed was I always looked at the corporate job as a way to not be poor and for financial security. But then there was a moment when I think it was such a cliche, but when I traveled, that I realized I looked at the financial security as a prison sentence. I'm like, oh my God, 40 years of hard time in accounting. That sounds terrible. I don't want that. I don't want 50 years of doing something I hate. How is that the point of life? So was there a point that, it kind of changed for you?
Well, you're a lot smarter than I am. So you actually became an accountant. I went to school to become a lawyer. And I failed. So my godfather said, you got to take math. And so I took math and I failed. It's the only thing I ever failed at in school. So I couldn't get into law school. So I dropped out of university. So I came home one day and I'm sitting on the couch and my dad, you got to picture this, blue collar worker, barely speaks English, wearing that Russian balaclava.
Oh my God.
Hat, right? Comes home in the middle of the day after working a couple of shifts. And keep this in mind, I'm the only person in my entire mom and dad's side that ever went further than high school. And so my dad comes up to me and he wasn't a big, feely, lovey, fluffy guy. And he says, what you do home? And I say, I dropped out of university. It's not for me. I'm just going to go get a job. And my dad comes up to me like this close to my face. And he says, look, love you. You no go back. I kill you. Very body. And so I'm like, okay, I got to go back. So I go back and I don't know what I'm going to study. I can't get into law school. And one of my best friends is never in class. And I'm like, hey, her name was Lydia. And I go, Lydia, what do you study? She goes, I study classical English literature. I'm like, how's that work? She goes, you go to class Monday. They give you like an 800-page book. You read it and you come on Friday and you give them your opinion of it. I'm like, you're kidding. This is a course. She's like, yeah. I'm like, sign me up.
Oh my God.
So I got a degree in classical English literature.
But you had to read. Oh, you like reading?
I love reading.
Okay, you have to read for law. And
yeah.
Yeah.
But not like you, not a lot of jobs for people who knew a lot about classical English literature. So I did everything. I produced a Winter Olympics when I was 19 years old for Canada. I was the youngest producer ever in an Olympic event. Couldn't get a job, just couldn't get a job. And I just happened to fall into a computer job. And then one day I got fired, didn't have enough money to make my mortgage payment, and just started selling computer stuff. And I sold one thing, still had the job. I was like, oh, that was really good. Sold another thing. And then I made more money working at night in 3 months than my annual salary.
Wow.
And I was like, what am I doing? I got to quit. So I quit. And that was it.
So you started as a trader, like me.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's a trader?
Like you trade, you buy low, sell high.
Oh, I'm a sales guy.
Yeah.
Don't you think every great CEO is
Needs
great
to
at
be
sales?
Yeah. You're constantly selling. You're selling yourself in the brand, the marketing, and then you got to get you got to get customers, but you also have to get employees. You're going to start a little to join your cult. I think everyone thinks they're bad at sales. Like I can't imagine I think the classic sales idea of having to pitch to someone, or doing cold call sales, I would just get off the phone, get rejected, and cry in my seat. But I think that's a lack of practice as well.
I think people are afraid of sales because they're afraid of rejection.
Yes.
Right. And they have this bias because they think used car salesmen. But sales is the lifeblood of any company. Sales is your lifeblood. It's my company, and every sales is different. You do e-commerce, obviously, so it's different. You're pulling customers. In my business, we have to actually go out and sell something to people. Funny little tip, I used to hire salespeople.
Yeah.
To find out if people really wanted to do sales, I used to ask them a trick question. and say, oh, Jane, I'm sorry we brought you in for a sales job today, but that job is actually filled. But we have a marketing job available. Would you be interested in that? If they said yes, I wouldn't hire them for sales.
Right.
Sales is hard enough that if you don't really want to do it,
yeah, you're not going to last.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe people will say yes to sales and not marketing. I'd be like, give me the marketing job. There you go. Yeah. I'm terrible at it. We'll get back onto the back into your timeline. But what's your advice for how to be good at selling?
So people are just naturally afraid of rejection. So if we all did sales and every time we went to pitch something, we got an order, nobody would be afraid of sales. And there's a bias because people think sales is about selling you something you don't need, but great salespeople are actually helping you, right? I mean, great salespeople are enablers. It's not the classical, buy this, you don't need it. It's not the art of selling you something that you don't need.
Yeah, the Jordan Belfort, sell me this pen. It's that's...
What would you say if somebody said, sell me this pen?
Oh, God. Okay, do you have an answer for this?
I do, because people ask me this all the time.
I'll be like, oh, well, this is Robert Herjavec's pen. So this is from the great Robert Herjavec. Do you want to buy it?
That's good. So somebody asked me that once.
Yeah.
I was at Harvard or one of these big universities. Kids love Shark Tank in the U.S. So somebody said, oh, we hear you're really good at sales. The Jordan Belfort sell me this pen. So I said, before I teach you to sell, you have to tell me who I'm selling to, because the pitch is different for everybody. Meaning, do you already own a pen? How many pens do you have? What do you need the pen for? Because how you position something isn't standard. It's all dependent on the need of the consumer.
Right, yes. What's their motivation? And then also
why are they buying it? Yeah. Why do people buy Showpo?
Because they want to look good for their occasion.
So they're buying it for how it makes them feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're so good at what you do, because when I watch your social channels and I see your catalogs, you're exuding fun. You're not selling clothes, you're exuding fun. I think that's what people miss in sales.
Yes, absolutely. So, and then also, I think you touched on this, to make sure to qualify the sale, the audience, and make sure it's it's about who are you selling to, and do they getting the people that actually want to buy dresses and pens, and not, I'm not trying to pitch you Showpo dresses and pitching an illiterate person a pen. Unless it's been used by Robert Herjavec.
Yes.
Exactly. So you're now making more selling computer parts. Is that when the entrepreneurial light bulb hit, or were you always
It's funny, Jane, because people say to me, oh, I wasn't born to be an entrepreneur. I wasn't born to do sales. And I always say when the pain of your current situation in life is great enough, you'll either change or you'll accept mediocrity. And I just got to a point where I just don't want to live like we were living. And if in 3 months I could make more than I made in a year, more than my dad made in a factory after 20 years, I was like, this is great. So I came home, I told my mom, I'm going to start a business. And my mom was petrified because she's like, oh, don't worry, you'll get a job one day. But that was, again, the immigrant mindset. Yeah. Where I come from, people don't start businesses. In a communist country, if you start a business, you either stole from somebody or you're a criminal, it's a lot of underhanded stuff. So, but that was really it. And I just kind of figured out along the way.
And then what did you do next?
I built that company and I ended up
selling computer parts,
cybersecurity. I was very lucky to get into it. And we ended up selling that business for $600,000, which was an enormous, I paid off my mortgage. And
wow.
That was for my parents, at 24 or 25, I paid off my mortgage.
That's incredible.
And that was the beginning.
If we were on the show, someone would be like, did they even have computers back then, Robert? Anyway, we're a bit, there's some ageist jokes on the show.
Houses. We lived in a cave. But no, that was it. And just started from there.
Right.
Do you think great entrepreneurs are born or made?
I think made. Because I don't like the idea that people think, even if it's, I don't even know if it's true or not. I just don't like the idea that they are born, because then it doesn't feel like anyone can be an entrepreneur. And I think anyone can, depending on if they have the drive, which I think is made, and also if they find the right situation. There is timing and luck involved. I think the luck is in the timing.
100%.
Yeah.
I used to live in an area in Toronto. I used to live in a 35,000 square foot house. It was the most expensive house in Canada. And there's a lot of very wealthy people around. There was a guy named Aubrey Dan who lived across the street from me. He had just sold his company for $4 billion.
No, wow.
Started from nothing. Immigrant from Israel, blah, blah, blah. He used to host a quarterly dinner for all the rich guys. There was no women at the time in our neighborhood. And one time we were having a dinner conversation and I asked him, Aubrey, if 100 people walked into a room, could you tell which ones were going to be worth $1 million, $100 million, $1 billion? He said, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt which ones are going to be worth millions. But I can't tell you which one are going to be worth 100 million or $1 billion because there's macro factors, including luck, to your point. So, you know, like Mark Cuban always says, someone is going to get lucky. Why not you?
Why not do all the things, set everything up so that you're ready to take that luck?
You can't be lucky unless you're in the game.
Yes.
So you got to play the game. But whether you make 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion, or 10 million, well, 10 to 100 you can control. But I think above that, it just depends on the market.
And so what do you think? You think entrepreneurs are made or born?
Absolutely made. I think some people are more naturally inclined at it. Mark, Damon, from our show, people you would know. I mean, they're just natural hustlers
and looking at opportunities.
Yeah, that wasn't me. But I think anybody listening, anybody watching, you can do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've sold this business for $600,000. And so now you're like, you've got this confidence of like, oh my God, I can do this.
I don't know if I have confidence.
But you've got money at least. You've got some.
I don't know if I have confidence. I just have the lack of fear now.
Right.
Because I feel like I'm 25 years old. I paid off my house. My parents, who worked their entire life, hadn't done that at that point.
Was making them proud a big deal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
I had to. It wasn't so much about making them proud. It was about justifying their sacrifice
of leaving everything. Yes. Yeah.
So if I wasn't successful, the immigrant guilt. You know, if I didn't succeed, their sacrifice was meaningless. And so I had to like do it, but not to the scale that I ended up doing it. Like that was unimaginable to them or to me.
Yeah. My husband's Waldy. He's always like, what are your parents going to do if you didn't succeed? Like, how are they going to pay off their house? And like, he looks at my mum who's retired like 5-10 years ago, just waltzing around the main streets, not doing anything, can't multitask with the things. And he's like, how is she going to be working at this age? She can't manage. Like, what was she going to do?
Now, you don't have brothers or sisters, do you?
No. So like,
either do I.
Yeah. It's all the pressure's on.
All the pressure's on.
Yeah.
Right? You got to do it.
So how did you start your next business?
Yeah, I started the next one. Same thing, cybersecurity. Had it for 10 years, sold it for 36 million.
Yeah, wow.
And I thought I was like the richest guy in the world.
Yeah. I remember you saying, because like in Canada as well, back at that time, it was
that's how I got on Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
Because it was such a big deal. It made the front page of the newspaper.
Wow.
It was so much money. Got to tell you a funny story. So I sold my business to AT&T. And I walk into a room to negotiate the deal. There's 15 lawyers from AT&T and me. And I'm thinking the business is probably worth $10 million. So I walk into a room. There's 15 lawyers. The head negotiator says, Robert, blah, blah, blah. We'd love to buy your blah, blah. I'm like, well, sure, but I don't know if I want to sell. What are you guys thinking? Like, oh, we don't want to throw out a number. We don't want to, insult you. We got to look at the numbers. I'm like, but you must have a range. They're like, I don't know, somewhere around 30. And I'm like,
okay.
stay quiet. And I literally remember I closed my book and I'm like, I'll have to think about it. And I walk out the door, go down the elevator. I'm like, ah! So then I sell the business and they're like, on the day of closing, you have to tell us, do you want stock in AT&T or do you want cash?
Yeah.
Do you want a check? And I'm like, I don't know. So I go out and I get all kinds of legal accounting advice and everybody says, take the stock. AT&T stock will go up. You can defer taxes, blah, 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 blah. 2 months go by. The day of closing comes. It's like the day before. I still don't know what to do. The AT&T lawyers are calling me. Who do you think I call for the final piece of advice?
Your parents?
My dad. My blue-collar dad who knows nothing about business. So I call him up and I say, hey, I sold my company.
He wants
for
bird in the hand.
$36 million. Blah, blah. What should I do? Should I take the cash? Should I take stock? He's like, you idiot. Take the money. So I call AT&T and I say, I'll take the cash. So I go upstairs and they have 3 checks for me because it's like last minute.
Oh, it's like a game. Like a game
$36 million.
show.
They give me the money. Within 3 months, AT&T stock goes up 20%.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. A year, not even a year later, because my stock was in AT&T Canada, AT&T decides to leave Canada and bankrupts AT&T Canada. My agreement would have had me hang on to the stock for a year. I would have got 0. Isn't that
my
pure luck?
God, yes.
I had no idea. I just got lucky.
Yeah.
So I would have literally sold my company and end up getting nothing. So I take the checks and I go.
I'm feeling the emotions of that roller coaster. I'm still like,
So I take the 3 checks. I go back to my office. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm looking at the 3 checks. I've got one here. I've got one there. I think one's like 8 million.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen it. And I'm moving the
so
checks
many
around.
zeros.
I'm moving them around. And then I'm like, oh crap. I'm going to lose $4,000 in interest today because I didn't deposit the check. So I run across the street. I go to the bank. There's a big lineup. I'm waiting in line. Line goes this way. Line goes that way. I finally get to the front of the line. This is way before when you actually had to go to a bank and see a teller. So I get to the front. I see the teller. And I say, I'd like to make a deposit. The teller says, did you fill out a deposit slip? Because you have to fill out these slips. And I'm like, no. And she goes, okay, I'll do it for you. I hand her the 3 checks.
It's none of
She looks at the amount and she says, let me get the manager. Manager comes over, looks at the 3 checks and says, young man, you will never wait in line at a bank again. And guess what? I've never waited in line at a bank again. True story. But again, the immigrant, like I didn't know what to do with the money. I just deposited it. And what did I do? I bought a house for $10 million.
I thought she was going to come and be like, there's not enough places to fill in the zeros in this form. Yeah. There probably wasn't.
You would have known what to do with the money.
No, honestly, I was impressed that you thought of the interest. I don't think
really?
that
Well, it's the immigrant.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah. Wow. How did you know whether to sell it? Like, how did you, or was it just like so much money? You were like, okay, everything comes with a price?
No, I don't believe that. I don't think everything has a price. I think it depends on you. There are only 3 times to sell a business. Number 1, if you don't want to do it anymore. If you're waking up in the morning and you don't want to do it, someone is going to kick your ass. Business is way too competitive for you to fake it. So if you're waking up and you don't want to do it and your business is a chore, you should probably get out.
Because you're competing with people who are bringing their A game, who love it.
Because there's a mini Jane Lou waking up right now saying, I'm going to take Showpo down. Yeah. And you're going to compete with them. So that's number 1. Number 2, if you feel you've gotten as big as you can because of market conditions, right? Something's about to change. Technology is going to make you obsolete, something like that. Or number 3, if the money will change your life. 36 million from where I was changed my life forever. Now, when I sold the next business, I went to sell the next one for 100 million. And I didn't do it. I turned it down because 100 versus 30, it wasn't going to change my life. I love my business. I wanted to keep going. But I think those are the only 3 times you should ever sell any business. It's amazing. You know, I always, because we started in Canada, and Canada is, the entire population of Canada is 60% the state of California.
Yeah.
As big as you think America is, it's massive. Like, it's massive. Like, we were the largest computer company, cybersecurity company in Canada at 100 million. Even to this day, my closest competitor in Canada is like 14 million.
Wow.
And we used to do 100 million in Canada. When I went to the US, I was tiny, like undescribably tiny. Like, people who are partners wouldn't even talk to me. In Canada, they thought I walked on water.
Yeah,
in the US, a regional sales guy wouldn't even return my call.
Wow.
It's that big.
Is that when you started the new company?
No, when I sold the company for 36 million, I retired.
A few years playing golf?
For golf, I hung out, but then I wanted to go back to work. So I started another company, same space. And then my goal was to get that company to 50 million. And as soon as I realized we were going to get to 50 million, new goal, because any goal you have that you can achieve is not big enough.
Yes.
So then I said 100 million. And then we got to 100 million. But in Canada, it's really hard to get bigger than that. And we want to stay focused. So we moved to the States. I moved to California, started the business. Within 3 years, we got to like 300 million, 400 million. And then we just kept growing. And then COVID hit. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go out of business. My biggest customer was one of the casinos. And they were 8 to 10% of my sales. And when COVID hit, they laid off 75,000 people in one day because all the casinos shut down, and called me and said, we can't pay your bills. I was like, crap, what's going to happen? But within 3 to 4 months, the opposite happened. Every other company, because of work from home, needed more security. And then we really began to grow. And to the point, I couldn't fund it anymore. I think when you're growing at 20 to 30% at hundreds of millions,
you can reinvest. Yeah.
You can reinvest. I mean, my payroll 1 year got to $86 million. My payroll. And Jane, here's the crazy thing. I remember looking and going, oh my God, our payroll is 86 million. Our sales 3 years before that, our total sales were 60 million. And now my payroll was 86 million. And then we began growing even faster. And then I sold a piece of the business to a big equity firm for many hundreds of millions. And then I just retired.
So I like the story that you have said a few times in the tank to people who don't want to let go of equity.
All of us sharks talk about this because we're trying to talk people into something.
Yeah.
It's better to own. It's better own 10% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape. Not sure I always agree with that, by the way, because I built I think we got to 380 million, and I owned 100% of it. Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to make billions of dollars, I think it's really hard to continue to own 100% of something. So we basically tripled the company after I did the equity deal in 3 years. So I think there's a time and place for everything.
How did you deal with the, scaling? Because then the business scaled so quickly, like all through, I mean, even when getting the business to 36 mil, this whole journey, like how did you manage that scale?
Just figured it out, right? Like anything, like there's an old saying somebody said to me a long time ago, fail quickly and never be afraid to pivot. And so in our culture, in my company, we used to have a saying, leave your ego at the door. We never cared about who was right. We just wanted to win. So if 10 of us walk into a room and you have a better idea than my idea, we're all in on you. But if it fails, we're abandoning your idea.
Yeah.
And so it's little steps along the way, because when it's your money, once you spend $1, it's gone. Like the one thing I've learned about equity people is they have unlimited amounts of money. like the firm that invested in us, I think has $150 billion they manage. It's a lot of money. So what they do is they're like, oh, we'll try a little bit of this. We'll try a little bit of this. We'll try a little bit of this, because they have capital. When you have your own company, you have no capital. You can't try 5 things. You can only do one thing, and you got to figure out really quickly if it's going to work or not.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It just comes down to like hedging your bets and getting most of them right. And I think like sometimes when we've had bad luck in our business, it's just like making a few of these like these decisions and taking the wrong route. So like for us, it was like COVID hit, hire the wrong people, follow their strategy, wrong strategy, hire someone else, wrong strategy. And that was just like a bad snowball effect.
Don't you find that as you get bigger, your people around you want you to move slower? I've learned to hate the word scale, because the word scale to me often implies slow and often implies second guessing. Oh, we shouldn't do that because that's not going to scale. We shouldn't do that because that's not going to scale.
It's like a lack of direction. It's like, no, we're reading the market. We're testing something. If it works, we double down. If it doesn't, we pivot. Are we going to double down on something we know that doesn't work? Like,
no. And I find in my industry, people are afraid to be wrong. And I think that can kill a business, right? Because you get bigger, you can't let bad decisions go. You got to cut them, even with employees. You know, the other big saying somebody told me is hire slow, fire fast.
Yes. And I say this too, but I don't do it. It's so hard.
When we got bigger, I didn't do it either. Oh my God, I'll never forget. I heard it. So at the end, I think I had 60 people in my HR department. So we're this big company, and I went to one of our offices, and I told the receptionist that I'm going to be there at, like 6:30 in the a.m. We have customers coming, if she can get all ready. Blah, 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 blah. Show up at 6:45. There's nobody there. There's nothing set up, nothing. She gives me some excuse, blah, blah, blah. Her attitude sucks. Like she's just negative. Customers come in, she's not smiling. Because that for me is, like, I don't care if you're having a shitty day. If a customer comes in, you're having a great day. Customer asks her, how are you doing today? She goes, oh, I'm not having a very good day.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Customer? Yeah,
don't bring that to work. Anyway, I call our head of HR and I say, Sarah, fire, forget her. We need to fire her. We need to let her go. Out of sight, out of mind, right? 3 months go by. I go back to that office. I walk in. She's still there. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? I found out we put something in called a PIP.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like,
I found out.
What's a PIP? They're like, it's a performance improvement plan, because we have to give people the opportunity to get better. I lost my mind. I said, look, there's a difference between somebody falling down and having a bad idea. It didn't work. That's different.
Yeah.
Shitty attitude, treating customers with disrespect. I don't need a PIP to know we need to fire that person. So that's frustrating.
I wish sometimes it could be like just like a breakup where like, this is just not like, I think you'll be better. Because I do think sometimes people will flourish and often in a different environment. It's like maybe you shouldn't,
Sometimes it's good for them. It should be like The Bachelor.
Yeah.
This isn't working out.
That's how the dating pool should be, like the recruitment process. They get nominated out. Actually, I just had a guest who was on. He actually has, he's the biggest mortgage lender provider after the big four banks.
Is that big?
In Australia, 100 billion loan book.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, and then so when they did recruitment for the business, they would actually get like 50, lots of ads to get people into a thing, and it was like a pitch 2-day thing where they literally like American Idol just to get people out, and then the people who do make it,
do you know in the US they do that with Shark Tank?
Oh really?
Yeah.
The pitches.
big companies do Shark Tank things.
Oh, right.
So let's say you're an engineer and you have an idea. They'll make people compete and pitch to see whose idea wins.
I love this.
Yeah, I used to go to a bunch of them. What's the biggest difference between Shark Tank in the U.S.
Oh my God.
and Shark Tank
This is
Australia?
my question. You stole my question.
What do you think?
That it's like
Top three things.
Okay, that the show is like the #1 family show in the US. So it's got this like credibility and eyeballs, which then makes the pitches a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you get on the show, you get the eyeballs, you kind of know that like if it's a good idea, it's already catapults the business. So it's a safer investment. That's one.
100%.
That's me as an investor thinking that.
That's one. Two.
It's much more of a song and dance, the pitches. It's like, and what else? That they are bigger scale businesses. They're like, they are at a higher stage. Because when I watch also the UK one, they're much more, there's a lot more even smaller.
A lot drier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think?
The stakes are higher.
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
It's like $500,000 for 5%.
No, I mean, the stakes are higher because if you get a deal, the impact to you
to be life-changing.
We figured that you get about, just from one airing, you get about $12 million worth of advertising just by being on the show. So the stakes are higher. People know that. Number two, the pool is bigger, yeah. Like 200,000 people applied to be on the show last year. So you're getting that. And number three, they're much more polished. Like by the time somebody comes and presents in front of us in the US, they've presented to 5 producers. They've done it at least 20 times. But again, bigger budget, bigger scale.
Yeah.
Now, top 3 things that the people pitching are different. Why are Australians different than Americans?
Okay, I actually have this story. I've actually been telling this to, because I've been going to these Paramount, it's Paramount 10, like it's a network events. And then I've been saying how great you are at just getting the entrepreneurs to talk. And the biggest difference I think Robert sees it's like the Australians are so chill. Because in America, like Robert's like, oh, what does this mean if this business didn't work out? Would you lose your house? And they're like, I'm like, yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. I'll never forget, because when I go back to America, all the American sharks, the American producers are like, so what was it like in Australia? What's the difference? And the story I always say is in our first season, I forget the name of the pitchers, they were pitching. And I actually said to them, I think I was having a cranky day. And I said, that might be the worst pitch I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I just paused. And I thought they were going to like get offended or start arguing with me. And they both looked at me and went, yeah, you're right. We could have done better. It's very Australian.
Yeah. You mean as business people? I think it's, because they're generally at a later stage, it's more validated. Like there's so much more of a VC culture. Like people have, I think a lot of people come here and they're like, oh, here's our valuation. Because I talked to like my friend's dad's accountant and they're like, this business is worth $5 million. Whereas there, it's like a lot of businesses are genuinely like, they're later stage. They've had more like entrepreneurial education. They may have...
Not always, but I think to your point, because we were in the air for 16 years, people know what to expect. I find Australians are incredibly entrepreneurial because we're in a small piece of land. The market's relatively small. And I think if you can build a substantial business here, like your business, you got to be really good at what you do. Like you got to be really good because it's really, really hard. In the US, you can have a crappy business and be doing $100 million a year.
Right. Do you reckon?
The market's that big.
Yeah.
3 differences between Australians and Canadian and American as people.
In general.
Oh,
I mean, I think Australians are very like, very chilled. And I think it's hard. Like when I go to the US, people are like, you got to sell yourself. In Australia, you're very more self-deprecating. You don't want to be pushing yourself too hard because you know,
right,
it's just not in our nature.
Number 2.
Oh my God, I don't need to be. I'm looking at the audience for support and they're not helping at all.
Number 1.
You tell me.
Self-deprecating, 100%. I love the Aussie lack of ego.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love how Australians want to be successful, but their entire self isn't tied into their ego.
Yeah.
Like, to your point, yeah, we could have done better. That's number 1. Number 2, Australians are incredibly fit in general.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you go to America, the portion sizes are massive.
And look at the Olympics. Like, we're always punching above our weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And number 3, I don't understand the Australian language.
Oh, that was my other question.
Everything.
I wanted to know what you learned, anything you remembered, because I'm not that Aussie, right? Because I'm the other immigrant on the.
Yeah, you're pretty Aussie.
But Robert's always looking like someone will say something or something will happen. There's a sign. Robert turns to me and goes, "What's that?" I'm like, I don't know. It's like the cooey. Like I didn't.
What's a cooey?
There was the cooey cookies. Oh, probably I don't know if I can say this. Whatever. And then cooey is, I kind of know. Like if someone tells me, like when Davey said it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But I don't.
Davey's very Australian.
He's very Australian.
He's
like
from Adelaide.
He's like when you're bushwalking, that's something you call out and it echoes. And you know, like I just, yeah, I'm learning a little bit too.
My favorite Australian sayings are, yeah. I love that. Although I learned you got to say yeah and nay.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand. Why am I saying yes if I'm about to say no?
Yeah.
I don't get that. Good on ya.
Yeah, like that.
That's like my favorite thing now. Good on ya. And how you going?
How you going?
I say that all the time.
I didn't realize. So I don't realize how much what I'm saying is like from American TV because you grow up with it, and you kind of realize later that it's an American thing, and you know, and then so many things I say that it's not actually a global thing. So reckon, it wasn't until I traveled that I didn't know that reckon wasn't just like everyone used this word. And I used to say, how you going? And I would have like Swedes being like, oh, I'm just gonna go here, or like, oh, I got here on a bike, and they're so confused.
When you first made money, what's the first thing you bought yourself?
Oh, okay. Oh my God. So bad. I bought myself a massage chair because my friend was trying to sell.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my friend he bought a $5,000 massage chair, and he worked in investment banking.
$5,000.
And he was like, I don't use that. I'm going to sell for $500. I'm like, I'll take it. But the problem was, so the size of the apartment of Waldy's apartment, and he was working at an investment bank, getting good 6 figures, but still, when he signed up for the apartment, he had $0, you know? So it was an apartment this size with this podcast room, and the massage chair is like the size of that large chair. In order to get it into level 6 of the apartment, they had to like find an extension cord, reconfigure it in the lift so it fits in the lift, and then reconfigure it again to get to wedge it through. You know, the friends pivot. They had to turn it off and on to change the setting and the configuration so that it would fit. That was my first thing. What did you buy? And then I bought myself a Jeep Wrangler. That was my big next thing.
They have Jeep Wranglers here?
Yeah, that was like, because
that's cool.
My little like toy car.
I bought a Rolex.
Oh.
Not an expensive Rolex, but I bought a Rolex because a guy I used to work for used to have a Rolex. And I used to say, one day, if I make it, I'll buy a Rolex. So I bought the Rolex. I had it for 10 years. And then I gave it to one of my employees.
Oh.
Who still has it to this day.
That's so nice.
Yeah. I'm not that nice.
No, like, Charlie Wakata, who are you going to watch? Well,
I am not giving him a Rolex.
I was like, maybe I want to get a cardio watch because, you know, like.
Did you get a cardio?
But then I was literally thinking about it. And then during the show, I was like, oh, Davey, what happened to your watch? And it's like broken. And it's the $70,000 broken watch. I'm like.
He doesn't have a Cartier.
No,
he has a
what if he has? Yeah, I know. But I'm like, I don't think I'm the type. And then I also had a tennis bracelet, which I lost. I don't know where it is. Oh, I also lost my wedding ring the other day, but I found it. Anyway, and I'm just like, I don't think I'm okay with buying a Cartier watch. I'm not at a point of my life where I'm okay with losing a Cartier watch. So I'm not going to buy it because I'd likely lose it.
Jay-Z has a saying. He said this to me one day. He said, if you can't afford to buy it twice, you can't afford to buy it once.
Exactly.
Isn't that like, would you ever buy a jet?
Definitely not. I mean, like the rental, we are renters because we don't like, I don't have tattoos. I don't like, we're never going to buy a holiday house because we like to go to different places every time. Like we just
You
like
say
to
that
change.
now.
Yeah, maybe with family, you like the routine. So
I like the...
And then all your stuff are there. So
I like my stuff.
So when we do have our boat thing, which is a leasing company, it's literally like our entire car is full of crap every time we go on and off. So, but we pay the same to rent it as our neighbor does just to moor his boat. And because we were leasing it, we feel like we need to use it more.
I try not to think about stuff like that financially because it depresses me. Just buy it.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the, I don't know. I think that's been popular for so long.
Have you always had plus size?
No, so we introduced that maybe 6 years into the business. And that was but we were one of the first to do it for a company like us because people at the time were either plus size businesses or not plus size.
You do it so well.
Thank you.
Because it's so authentic to you. Like you don't release a line of stuff and then say, oh, and here's our plus line stuff.
Yeah.
You do both. Because I notice when you have a plus size model modeling the exact same outfit as another model. And you seem to launch products at the same time.
Yeah.
For all sizes.
Yeah.
Super, super smart.
And the only product that don't get made in the plus size is when it doesn't, we do fittings when it doesn't actually fit the bust as a support, something doesn't work out. And it's not going to be a great product. We don't sell that, but everything else. So yeah, it's been great. And so that was it took a couple of years to get that up and running. Because when I actually first started the business, we didn't even design. I'm not a designer. So we just traded. We bought low, sell high until we grew to a size where we can.
Somebody else's stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So anyway, back to you.
Yeah.
What's the toughest time you've been through?
Gosh, there's been a lot of times. I mean, I went through a really hard time in 2014. I ended up in I was really depressed. I didn't know if there was and I'm a pretty happy guy.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I just didn't believe there was going to be a tomorrow. And one of my best friends is a priest. And, the good thing about me is when I'm not happy, it's so obvious. He actually said to me, you've got to go somewhere and fix yourself because you're no good to anyone. So I ended up going to Seattle, where another friend of his ran a Christian homeless shelter. I ended up staying there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Working in a soup kitchen, the whole 9 yards. It was really hard because I'm, as you can tell, not a very... I'm more of a Four Seasons, luxury kind of guy. This was about as far away from that as you can imagine. But it turned out to be one of the best times too, because it really fixed me, it centered me. But that was really hard. I think whenever you get put out of your comfort zone like that, it's really hard. Here's the great thing I think about life and I think about business. It doesn't matter how hard it was. It doesn't matter how many times you failed. All you got to do is be right. You sell your company for $500 million. You know what people remember? Jane Yu, who sold her company for $500 million. They won't remember the time you almost didn't make payroll. They won't remember the time that you released a line and nobody friggin' bought it. They won't remember all the mistakes you made. You just got to be right once. It's the beauty of the business.
Love that. Oh, a good soundbite. Oh, that's great.
We've become really good at sound bites. That's another thing I notice about Australia is people talk in long monologue. In America, which you learn very, very, very quickly, because if you can't do it, you'll get fired.
Right. You mean on TV or just
TV.
Yeah.
Commercial time is so expensive. Like a 30-second spot on Shark Tank is like $265,000. So you learn to get your point across like quickly because you don't have time. No one's going to interview you for half an hour. It's like sound bites. Kevin on our show, the mean bald guy, he's great at it.
Yeah.
The other thing I've learned from him is I remember the first time, because I wasn't very good at it, we went to do an interview. An interviewer asked him a question, and he didn't even answer it. He just answered with what he wanted to talk about. So the interviewer would say, well, Kevin, what are we going to see this year on Shark Tank? Well, Jane, thanks for asking. My new book is coming out October 15th. It talks about blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kevin, aren't we supposed to answer their questions? And he would say, you're an idiot. Just talk about what you want to talk about.
Oh my God. I have to say, I was listening to another one of your podcasts, and this guy asked you about like cybersecurity, and you're like, I'm like, you just pivoted that. And then because you said something great. I'm like, this is really good. I'm like, what did he ask to get this out of Robert? So went and rewinded just to be like, what did he ask? Like, cybersecurity? And you're like, nah. We don't need to talk about cybersecurity. No one's tuning in to listen about cybersecurity. So I think the question that everyone will want to know is, how much have you invested in Shark Tank throughout? Gosh. It's a 16 years?
16, well, 21 years, including Canada. A lot, but, money goes out, money comes in. The difference between Shark Tank in America and Canada and Australia is there's an immediacy to consumerism. The business of America is consumerism. When you invest in a product in the States, it will sell out that night.
Is it like an infomercial culture?
Yes. Yes. Americans love to buy. Like Americans will see a product on TV and will go to the website immediately. Like we track all that. Even before the pitch ends, if people like it, people are buying.
Yeah. Wow.
Here's how Canadians do it. They see a pitch on Dragon's Den. They say, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Maybe I'll buy that.
Yeah.
3 days later, they'll see it at a retail shelf. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's the thing I saw at Dragon's Den. It's great. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, they might buy it. It's just, you don't have that platform. So that's the difference in America is we've all had pretty big wins where we've made millions and we've all spent millions of dollars over the years. The biggest so far is Mark. I think Mark's invested $32 million.
Whoa.
Which is like, $200,000 to me. It's such a small amount of money for him.
Oh my God. But like,
never do a deal with Mark.
Because?
I'll tell you why. I used to Mark has an incredible team. They do all the due diligence. They're amazing. So one time I did a deal with Mark and we invested $500,000 each into this company, swimming goggles, using AI and all this other stuff. So we do the deal and I hand it over to his team and I'm like, this is great. His team is going to run it. It's fantastic. We do the deal. Company's a disaster, complete disaster. I call him up. I'm like, Mark, what happened here? He's like, thank God it was only $500,000. So I'm like, yeah, don't do a deal with Mark.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Do you think you've become better at detecting like what's a good investment on the show? Let's start with what's a good pitch. Okay. More like advice to someone who's pitching.
No, I get the question. Have I become better at spotting a good deal? No, but I've become better at knowing when someone's full of shit. Here's the amazing thing. It is unbelievable how quickly the five of us agree when something's bad. But we don't always agree when something's good.
Yeah.
So on the deals that we're all out, like we're like, yeah, this the entrepreneur's awful. They'll know their numbers. The product's never going to work. But sometimes we don't know. We don't agree whether it's going to make it or not.
I do like that about this year. We're quicker to go out on the ones that are not. Last year I'm like,
went on
and on.
Yeah.
Because we weren't, I don't know.
But the pitches were great this year.
Yeah.
And when do we air?
We air at
October 16th.
That's right. What did you think were the differences between season 1 and 2?
We had 2 new sharks, which were great.
Yes.
I think Maxine and Nick brought a different dynamicism to the show. But I think more importantly, you and Davey were better.
Thank you.
Not that you were bad last year, but you were on a whole different level this year. Like, you were amazing.
Thank you so much. Well, I feel like definitely, I think having time to reflect, I felt like I learned so much from you. I used to say like, because we had to do all the PR stuff. I'm like, one of the best things about this, selfishly, so I get a front row seat to the Robert show, which is like entertaining and educational. And also I think having done this podcast for the last year, I've just been actually talking about business a lot more, just because before that, like I wasn't actually really talking that much about business.
What were you talking about?
Just reality TV shows, clothes, things on TikTok.
No, you were great this year. You were great. You were great last year, but it just your processing and your ability to translate it was amazing.
Thank you.
Your stories are incredible. I thought Davey was great this year too. Again, so I feel we're better, but the thing what people miss about the show is it's an ensemble. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about Davey, Nick, or Maxine. All five have to be good.
Well, I thought the dynamics were great because there was a lot of banter. There was a lot of laughing.
Yes.
It rolled. I felt like it rolled.
It did. I think we just need to be the thing you notice. And Davey went to Shark Tank in the U.S. with me this year.
Oh my God, take me next year.
We just don't. We trust the process, so we never think about what we're saying, whether it make us look bad.
Yeah.
And I find that sometimes here, and it might be an Australian thing, we sometimes don't want to say something because we're like, oh, how would the audience react to that?
Yeah.
Will this make me look bad? In America, that just doesn't happen.
Well, the biggest difference when my friends have been asking me, how's Shark Tank this year? What's been different? I think the biggest difference that I'm doing this year is I'm not trying to sound smart. Whereas last year, I was...
Mission accomplished. I'm just kidding.
No, I was in my head trying to sound smart, but it wasn't in the moment as much. So
I could see that because you were thinking about it.
Yeah.
You're right. This year, you were just
more in the moment.
Beautiful, dynamic Jane Lou. Boom.
There was a moment when we were eating, and I forgot we were on a show. They were like, "Go back, stop eating, go sit down."
It was great.
So, tell me about your best and worst investment.
My worst investment was probably, what was it called? Monkey wipes.
Oh.
Barbara and I invested in it. Wasn't a lot of money. It was like, it's all relative. It's $40,000 each. And within 6 months, we're doing okay. The lady called Barbara and said, I don't want to run the business anymore. I'm going to go back and get my MBA.
Oh.
And she had already spent our money. It was gone.
Yeah.
And so this was early days. Barbara calls me and says, what are we going to do? And I said, Barbara, you're going to call her and ask her to give us the money back. Barbara said, I can't do that. I said, oh, I have no problem in doing that. Because I remember how hard I worked for $40,000. So I did. I called her and I said, look, I really appreciate the fact that you don't want to run the business anymore and you want to go back to MBA school. You need to return our money as investors. You don't have that right or privilege.
Right.
And
did she?
Did. Yes. So it worked out. But I learned.
That's good sales.
I learned you need an entrepreneur who really wants to do it. You can't invest in somebody who's doing it part-time. That's why you see we're always like, are you working at this job full-time? That kind of thing. Best one, I've had a bunch of them. I've had a bunch that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in sales now. The problem is, how do I get my money out?
Exactly. Yeah.
I need one of these to go public, or I need somebody to buy them.
And it's like consumer products don't really...
Well, the problem with consumer products, as you know, is it's very up and down. Like we had one, sales went to 160 million, and then this year they'll do 75 million, right? Trends in consumer products are hard to predict.
Okay, what do you look for in a pitch?
What do I look for in a pitch? Before you tell me how great your idea is, before you tell me you've invented something that nobody in humankind has ever invented, before you sell me on this brilliant idea, sell me on yourself. I'm sitting there 10, 12 hours a day. I'm bored. I'm hungry. I'm thinking about my other businesses. I'm thinking, What are my kids doing? I'm thinking what car I'm going to buy. I'm not waiting for you to come out those doors. I am not waiting for the doors to open and say, oh my gosh, it's Jane. Get my attention. Number one, that's what makes a great pitch. Number two, you got to know your numbers. You don't have to be an accountant, but you got to know your numbers. How many times have people come out and then they don't know their margin, they don't know their cost of goods, they don't know the size of their market, like none of that.
You told someone to fire their mom this year.
I did.
Because she didn't know the numbers. Yeah.
I felt bad. I was like, I'm joking, but not.
Yeah.
And then she probably got into an argument with her mom.
Yeah.
What do you think makes a great pitch?
Yeah, I think they have to have that fire in their belly to really sell themselves, because I think what I've seen from the pitches and the investments, it's like, I think maybe we as founders kind of put ourselves in their shoes of being like, if we had this, I think I'm an optimist. So I kind of think, okay, if I had this product, this is what I'll do with it. I'll do this, that, that. I want to do this. And, almost like, wow, this can be huge. I can do all these things with it. But then the entrepreneur doesn't necessarily.
We're too empathetic.
Yeah.
Because we put you're right. That's what happened in the first couple of seasons in the US. Now, after 16 years, we cheer for the entrepreneurs, but we've seen a lot. You got to really level your game up.
Yeah. And well, I'm definitely more like, compared to last year, more like, but this can go on. Like it's like I think when we see the pictures, entrepreneurs don't understand the risks ahead. And we also, last year, I don't think I factored in the risks of them as an entrepreneur. Like people as entrepreneurs, like, other, I kind of just am almost like biased because I'm like, oh yeah, anyone can succeed, which anyone can, but not necessarily in that business, in that strategy.
Well, and they got to work at it.
Yeah.
You're an investor. You're not working in the company.
Well, this is the other thing. I feel like sometimes I
You
forget. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing so much. I get like, Caitlin can see like, you're getting assigned like assigner tasks. I'm like, oh, I'm too nice anyway. But yeah, I think it's going to be like, I think this is going to be a great season.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. October 16th.
October 16th. Everyone needs to watch.
Everyone.
Thank you. And so just to switch gears, when did you decide to retire and what have you been doing since then?
Well, I don't like to use the word retire.
Selling
just
your
a different chapter.
Yes.
I decided earlier this year because I want to spend more time. We moved to Australia, as you know, and I love it here. I absolutely love it. And it's a long way to go back and forth. And I've been working at the company 21 years and I built it to what it is. I'm really proud of it. But
and you're so hardworking. I remember once I came into the set and I was like, oh man, I slept so badly. And you're like, I've been up since 2:00 because I had to do this like meeting or some virtual public speaking
that's right.
thing.
I did a speech.
And I just thought, well, I'll just stay up. And you didn't complain. And I was like, well, I better stop complaining.
Yeah, I love what I do, but it's time. You want to do different things. I'm going to become a social media influencer.
Oh my God. Well, you've got the
I
right
want to be like you.
Yeah. Well, you're doing well. You're going to have a 1 million party.
Is that what you do?
Well, you should have a 1 million dinner and I'll come. You're close.
Well, I have an amazing team. Thanks to Davey for introducing me to them. Charlie, if we get to 1 million viewers, what are we going to do?
Yeah, let's do the boat party.
Let's do it.
It'll be
But
this
we're doing
summer.
it in Sydney. Let's not do it in Adelaide.
No, he'll have to come. So I absolutely love your story about how you and Kym met. If you can just tell our listeners, potty fan.
You're a potty fan. Well, we met on a TV show, Dancing with the Stars. Kym was my partner. We were on the show for 86 days.
That's really good. Like you are good. I've seen the videos. That's so. No, you're good. No, because and then so Kym was on the Australian. She was originally an Australian. She won the first season with like.
She won the first season,
and then she became a judge in the Australian one, right?
No, she competed across the world in ballroom. She was one of the top ballroom dancers in the world. And then she got into a show called Burn the Floor.
Right, yes.
And she toured that around the world. Then she was on Broadway. And then they decided to do a show called Dancing with the Stars, which started in Australia.
Yeah, amazing.
And then she got cast. And back then, if you can believe it, none of the other dancers wanted to do the show.
Yeah, wow.
Because they're like, oh, I'm a professional.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's not real dancing. And so, of course, now everybody wants to do it. But she got on it, she won, and then they needed a hot blonde who wasn't Russian, because back then most of the blondes were Russian, Eastern European.
Why didn't they want Russian?
Well, they had a lot of Russians.
Okay, it's the balance. Yeah.
Ballroom dancing was very...
Yeah.
So she went there and she was there for 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah. She became a judge.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
That's such a cool meeting story.
Can you dance?
No.
Can Wally dance?
Oh, he cannot. He's terrible. We did get dancing lessons. It's terrible. But I think your body changes when you have kids, because I think I can dance. I used to be able to dance. And now I look at myself dancing. Oh, that's what you should do. Get Timmy to teach you TikTok. And that's how you get your 1 million.
We were just talking about that.
Oh my God, Robert, do it.
She's a pretty good dancer.
You should definitely
She's
do it.
doing the Christmas carols.
Oh, Carols in the May?
Carols in the May.
Is she?
Have you heard of that?
Yeah. Oh my God, I used to love it as a kid.
Right?
Yeah.
Charlie's never heard of it.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
So Kimmy just got asked to perform and choreograph a big number.
That's so cool.
So that was her dream, because as a kid she watched it. Yeah, she's doing Jingle Bells.
That was such a big deal. Okay, I'm gonna tune in for that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Britney Spears, she used to be able to. I'm not saying Britney Spears.
Are you Britney Spears?
But before she had kids and but like she could dance, and then now she like moves around awkwardly. So I'm
she
like
does?
that. Yeah, like it's not the same. And I feel like my body doesn't move the same way.
I never had that problem. I could never move, and I still can't move.
Yeah. What do you do to fill your time? I know you're going to Germany.
I'm going to Germany, getting a car. Well, I'm still working until October 1st. But
Like an earn out?
No. I never did an earn out. But I'm still the CEO until October 1st.
Right.
We hired a new CEO, so still involved with the company, still go see customers, a lot of investments.
How do you find time for everything?
Speeches.
Yeah, where do you get the time? And to do the show, 2 shows?
Yeah, but we film, 10 days?
Yeah, but...
Do you know we film only 8 days in America?
Wow. And you get 35 episodes out?
25 episodes.
Oh my God.
We see 10, 12 pitches a day.
Yeah.
How many do we see here?
Last year was 7. This year's like 5.
5.
Yeah.
Why do we only see 5 a day?
Yeah.
We could do more.
Yeah.
It's not very much. All right.
2 truth and 1 lie?
Okay.
Hit me.
I've won over 20 races in a Ferrari GT car.
Mm-hmm.
I have a pilot's license.
Mm-hmm.
I have a professional scuba diving license.
Right. Okay. So this is like, how much have I been paying attention to you rambling in the green room? Okay. So I know you have.
That was really good.
I know you have a pilot's license. I know you race your car, but is it 20? Because I know you had that accident that you talked about. But then like a professional scuba license, that's probably the easiest to obtain out of all of them. So, but is that to throw me off? 20 races is a lot. Did you say just race or win?
Win.
Oh, I reckon maybe it's like 10. That's the lie.
You're wrong.
Tell me who's saying that.
I've actually won way more than 20 races.
Really?
Yes. All over the world. I've raced in Dubai.
Oh my
God.
Sorry.
Blah, blah, blah.
Sorry.
I've had a diving license since I was 16 years old. And it's not that easy to obtain.
Oh, sorry. It's easier than the pilot's license.
Yeah, that's true. I do not have a pilot's license.
Don't you?
No. Because you know what? I never wanted to learn to fly. I always wanted to buy a plane and sit in the back. I want somebody else to drive the bus.
Right. Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you, Jane.
One final question.
Yes.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. Dream bigger. The scale of your achievement is only limited by your ability to dream.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. 16th of October. Next time you see me and Robert together in action.
October 16th. Woo!